are now tuned into the 2-Minute Warning, a live stream community conversation pertaining to social and political issues and how we can collectively resolve them. Powered by the Westside Gazette.
Good evening and welcome to the 2-Minute Warning. The 2-Minute Warning is brought to you by the Westside Gazette newspaper, one of South Florida's oldest African-American owned newspapers. And joining me tonight is the publisher of the Westside Gazette, my good friend Bobby Henry. Bobby, how you doing, my brother?
Good evening, my brother. I am terrific and getting better. Feeling kind of lonely because my sidekick is not next to me. I understand he's somewhere in the panhandle up there enjoying some jazz and a much needed break. However, we're here.
Mm-hmm. We're here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how are you? How are you, Perry?
Man, I am doing well. I have been enjoying this last few weeks in Tallahassee, and man, tonight is really a bittersweet moment for me because I'm excited about the discussion tonight. But man, tonight is also my last night in Tallahassee and my last night in Florida before we ship out.
What are you getting ready to do? You getting ready to go from coast to coast, are you?
Yeah, from coach to coach, as you and David continue to tell me. But, man, I am looking so forward to it, not just for my wife and I, but, man, we've got some, hopefully some good shows to schedule out of this process that with this opportunity, it'll give us a chance to put the 2-Minute Warning on the road, even as we go coast to coast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perry, our prayers, of course, go before you and surround you and with you. Again,
Thank you.
Just be careful, bro. Just be careful.
Man.
This is a crazy world we living in. Don't ring the wrong doorbell, Perry. And remember what your car looks like when you get ready to get into it.
Bobby, that happened. Bobby, that happened to me. I would say last week, man. I was at the grocery store, walked up on the truck. I have a great truck. How many great trucks are there? And man, I walked up on it, and it wasn't until I was at the door that I noticed I wasn't at the right truck. And man, you're saying not only can we not knock on the wrong door, how many of us have pulled up in the driveway to turn back to park on the street? I mean, we pulled up in the wrong driveway or in a driveway, really to make a move. And now you can't even walk up on the wrong car.
No, man, I was listening to some statistics as it pertains to gun violence. 5,467 deaths already this year. Well, that was maybe 20 minutes ago. It's probably going up now. And then out of that, 165 mass shootings. What is that saying about us as a society of people? This is crazy, man. If the storms, if climate change is not getting us, then we're knocking each other off left and right, with that weapon. So, oh man.
And all of that, I heard someone say, it's amazing. We found the moon as a goal to reach, and here we're able to get to the moon, and we're able to put objects in space and now have artificial intelligence, but we don't have the intelligence to stop something simple as this gun violence.
The human being is not a simple thing. There's a whole lot of missing parts, and when you put a weapon at there. Somebody once said that the humans are the only animals smart enough to find a way to kill them all. You know, that's something. But let's do this, man. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I was also saying someone also said that about humans in regard to humans tend to present themselves as the most intelligent being, while at the same time being the one species that know himself the least.
Mm.
All other animals know their place and know their role. Man seems to be the one most misguided.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's deep, brother. Okay, let's do this.
You know why? Because it's 420 day. Happy 420 day. If we gonna have a
what's a 420 day? You just making up something.
Happy 420 day.
Okay.
Happy 420 day. Yeah.
Happy 420
You don't know
day.
what happened?
No.
You don't know what happened 420 day?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the great smoke out. Yeah. Oh man.
Where all the deep thinkers come out today.
Yeah. That's great. No wonder the fragrance in the air was not morning glory. It was Okay, very good.
Right.
Let me see if I got my card. Okay, let's do this. You know, even though I don't have my sidekick here, the person who's going, we have a celebrity host, you know, and this person comes from Omaha, Nebraska. She's the publisher of a historic paper, the Omaha Star. She has her own podcast, the Omaha Star Morning Show. Just a little bit. Let me get that right though. The Omaha Star Morning News Bites, and Terry is an outstanding person. She does more than publish a newspaper. She is extremely creative, so much so that she gave birth to one of the most remarkable now on the scene TV personalities and news persons. So let me stop talking. Let's bring on Terry Sanders. Come on, Terry.
Hi.
Hey there. What's
Good
happening?
evening.
You got it all down in Florida. I'm up here, but it's cold in Nebraska.
It's still cold. It's still cold, Terry.
It's not cold, but it's not hot like it is where you are.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Terry, we want to thank you for agreeing to be one of our hosts tonight for this show, our celebrity host.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to it.
Okay, just jump right on in here. Tell us a little bit more about you, though, Terry. Tell us something, just a little bit more about you.
So, Omaha, Nebraska, middle of the country. I was born and reared here. I've lived other places. I am the 5th publisher of the Omaha Star newspaper, and all publishers have been Black females. I think that's kind of unique. Wow. We are the only Black newspaper in the state of Nebraska, and we have been around for 85 years.
Wow.
Long time.
Very good. Long time. All right. Now what that morning bits, what's that about? Bites.
Bites, like computer bites.
Bite you.
It is.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
News Bites on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Omaha Star Morning News Bites is 3 minutes or less. We talk about news. I talk about the weather, not only in Omaha, but in other places that people would like to be. Give you maybe some celebrity birthdays, give you a motivational quote, and send you on your way. Unlike
Bites.
Tonight, we got a long time, but in the morning, people don't have time.
Okay.
Right.
And I don't want to lose them.
Bites. I got that. That's embedded in my head now.
Okay.
Who we got back there, Perry?
Our guest tonight, our first guest tonight is man. I can't go into his resume without really just telling the story. I first met our first guest when he was a city councilman in Houston, Texas. We were the city of Houston was in a debate over a technology issue and a digital divide issue, in which he was chairing the technology subcommittee, and he was a very integral part of it. But I've known him throughout his political career beyond just the city council. Uh, our next guest, Carroll Robinson, has served as a trustee on the Houston Community College School Board. He is currently a professor uh, at Texas Southern University, a historically black college. He is a professor in the Mickey Leland Barbara Jordan Institute. Two historic black figures in not just Houston politics, but national politics. Barbara Jordan and her role in the hearings in '73 over with Richard Nixon, and just her leadership in Congress, and the late Mickey Leland, who was a great humanitarian and kept us connected uh, with the motherland, and unfortunately died during one of those peace missions to Africa, and so. Carroll Robinson is definitely in line with those footsteps. He is not only a great teacher, but he is a great student of Houston politics and national politics as a whole. And he's currently president of the Texas Black Democratic Caucus. And so I'll let him come on and talk about the many things he's done. I know he's a New York native, and so those brothers work 24/7. And and so without further ado, Carroll Robinson. I like.
Hey everybody,
good evening.
Well, good evening. Look, I appreciate Perry Busby. It's good to have a friend that's a hype man. We go back a long way. I'm a college professor, served on a community college board of trustees, active in Democratic Party politics, going back to Jesse Jackson's first run for president, and I still remember a number of things Jesse used to say, and he always talked about tree shakers and jelly makers. And I tell people all the time, but for Jesse Jackson's 84 and 88 campaign, we probably would have never seen a Barack Obama elected president of the United States, because his work changed the rules of the Democratic Party and laid the intellectual foundation in terms of talent development for a lot of the people that moved the Democratic Party to a place where a young man from Chicago who was a state senator, had lost the race for Congress, could eventually be elected to the United States Senate, and then make one of the great historic speech at the Democratic National Convention and be elected ultimately president of the United States and re-elected the first African-American black president of the United States, Barack Obama. I'll say this to it as a historic distinction. Barbara Jordan is the Congresswoman, only two-time keynote speaker to a Democratic National Convention, and during the Watergate hearings was really the conscience of the nation about what Richard Nixon had done to not just the political process, but the integrity of democracy in our nation. And as we have gone through the January 6th debacle, if you go back and watch her at the Watergate hearings, you can see a foreshadowing and early warning of the kind of threats we are dealing with right now. But I'll stop there so we can have a group conversation. But I'm honored to be here. Perry Busby is a great friend, and technology binds us together, because I think Black people have to play in a space of where innovation and transformation continues to change America and is foundation for empowerment going forward.
And yep, and that's where the Omaha Star Morning News bites come into play. And I got that. Now, our next guest, everything that you said, I'm pretty sure that our next guest, this prolific journalist, has covered a whole lot of that. This person has written over 14,000 stories for several newspapers and other media outlets, such as The Final Call, the NNPA, hashtag Let It Be Known show. Barrington Salmon, I pronounce his name, Salmon, has been all over the world covering stories from Ethiopia, the Virgin Islands, and elsewhere. He has one of the things that he said that really stuck out to me the most was the fact that he was a speechwriter for one of the greatest mayors this country has ever seen, and that's Marion Barry, a people's mayor. So Barrington has been around. He is known on the circuit as a liberation journalist. So let's bring in this prolific liberation journalist on. Come on, Barry. What's up, Barrington?
Good evening. How you all doing?
Very
Good
well.
evening.
Good.
So tell us a little bit more, Barrington.
Born in England, Jamaican parents, so raised in Jamaica and London. Came to the U.S. as a teenager. Intended to go back home after 5 years. I've been here for more than 40. So I am a Pan-Africanist. I believe that unless all of us in the diaspora figure out ways to get past the barriers and love each other, take care of each other, understand each other, that we're going to end up poorly in all of the things that are going on around the world, especially in this country. Writing is all I do. I've not found anything else that has given me the joy that writing has, and my primary purpose is to tell our stories, because the hunter cannot tell the story of the hunt. So we have to be the ones to tell our story, because nobody else can tell it the way that we can.
Okay. So Barrington,
Yes.
With that being said, and the topic of discussion or our center of discussion as it pertains to strategy, the art of war, and navigating through this political landscape, what do you see as one of the most impediment to us moving ahead?
I think one of the things, it struck me, I happened to I was writing the other day, this documentary came on named The Lost Tapes of Adolf Hitler. And it talked about his rise to power, his childhood, his rise to power, and everything that he has done. The Republicans have mirrored it in terms of the right-wing, white nationalist move that they have made. Attempt to overthrow the government. Then once they thought that it would be safe if they made him chancellor, so they appointed him chancellor, and he never gave up power again until he was overthrown by the Allied forces in 1945. I think that we make a mistake, particularly in media, by echoing the lies that Trump, the Republican Party, and the right wing say. We don't have enough pushback. It's as if people are afraid to call a spade a spade. So I think that we, and the thing that I don't see enough of is that they're coming for Black people, primarily. They're coming for us. And I think that we need to have warriors. We need to have scholars. We need to have a gamut of people who are actively working to fight against this fascism that has taken root in this country.
Yeah. Well, and taking that step further, I heard Bobby mention the art of war, and one of the things I really know about Carroll is that when you really get a chance to know Carroll, one of the books he's going to push on you is The Art of War. If you're gonna work with him, you better know the art of war. But taking that, and Carroll, before we started this, we were talking, really about the 80s. But tonight we're talking about strategies, and I guess one of the things I would ask is, do we have a strategy?
Look, I have a strategy, and look, this is the reality, and I'm glad the writer is on. People don't understand that the way the human mind works, it has to draw creativity, inspiration from someplace. And the place it generally draws it from is history, the philosophies, the thinking. And what you're seeing with the Republican Party, I absolutely agree. They have gone back and they have looked at history. I tell people all the time, as a for instance, if you want to understand Donald Trump, not only the history of how Hitler came to power, but it's how most despots came to power. And if you want a shorthand read the book 1984, where the people try to convince the audience. We call it alternative facts, that up is down, down is up.
Yeah.
And they have a theory of the case. Part of the problem is that Black people have entirely hooked our survival and strategy to what was once the oppressive party, the Democratic Party, and somewhere along the lines, the two parties flipped roles. I harken back to the Congressional Black Caucus when it was founded. And the caucus founding document was, we had no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. And we have got to get back to permanent interest and understand that, yes, in fact, they are coming for us. For those people who are quote unquote historic scholars out there, look, the United States Supreme Court has never struck down the Dred Scott decision that said a Black person has no rights that a white person must respect.
Yep.
And when you look at what Republicans are doing across this country, they have a coordinated, overarching strategy of trying to disenfranchise primarily Black people, because we are the most loyal block of voters to Democrats. And if they can wipe us out politically and otherwise, they will hold on to power. And without saying it in such a way that everybody gets it, they're essentially saying they don't want a diverse America. This is a white nation. It's got to be in the control of white people, and they have a sophisticated plan, much like the people who wrote the Constitution in Philadelphia decided to make us 3/5 of a person. They believe they have to get us back that way. And when you look at what's happening in Tallahassee, in Austin, in Tennessee, in Mississippi, and a bunch of other states across the country, that is what they're doing. They are engaged in a sophisticated version of what we once referred to as nullification and interpositioning to negate the federal government, because pretty much all the rights of Black people, and we categorize them as civil, but we never anchor ourselves in the story of the Declaration of Independence, that these are God-given rights, and we came here as fully formed human beings, and our God-given rights were suppressed by white people. And now that we are free, we are entitled and we intend to claim our God-given rights to life, liberty, survival, pursuit of happiness, and prosperity.
So you said something, Mr. Robinson, about diversity. And the buzzword for the last couple of years has been DEI, diversity and inclusion. And now I think it's blowing up in their faces. They thought they wanted us to be a part of what was going on. When we got in there, then that ruined it, because they don't like it. So what do you think, or how do you think diversity has played a role in getting us out instead of the intended getting us in?
So let me have a frank conversation. I spoke on a panel a couple months back, and you know why it's DEI, right?
Right.
Because look, let me say this. It's really sequentially, it should be diversity, inclusion, and
And
equity. I'm
equity.
gonna deal with all that, but that abbreviation is DIE,
Uh-huh.
DIE.
Uh-huh.
Ah,
That's
Uh-huh.
why they went to
Uh-huh.
DEI.
Hmm.
But let's deal with the reality. DEI is a substitution verbally for the old affirmative action because affirmative action got polluted and it was no longer politically correct.
okay.
It drove such negative consequences that, let's say, progressive Democrats, they had to come up with something new. The problem is that's not the constitutional standard. When the North won the war and Abraham Lincoln forced on the South the 3 Civil War amendments, the standard was equality. We were supposed to be made whole and equal citizens in the United States of America, consistent with the assertion in the Declaration of Independence. And ever since Lincoln died and Reconstruction failed and the South was brought back into the Union and they removed Union troops, we've been in this running battle of pretending that somehow Black people should be citizens, but not fully citizens. And we've tried affirmative action. We tried Brown versus Board of Education with all due speeds. We tried the Civil Rights Act. And look, Brown versus Board of Education was 1954. There's actually a higher education desegregation case. I believe it was out of Oklahoma, and then the TSU case where we had a mailman, black mailman, who wanted to go to law school at the University of Texas, but they wouldn't let him in, and so they ultimately created the law school that we now call Thurgood Marshall. But by 1972, remember the voting rights, civil rights are 64, 65. By 1972, we have Croson, reverse discrimination, Bakke. So within less than a full 10 years, the fight was on to reverse the progress of allegedly implementing the goals of the civil rights, the Civil War amendments. And DEI became a substitute for affirmative action. Great book, A Brief History of Affirmative Action that people should read. And now we are here where we are, where Republicans have decided they don't even want to continue down that road. They want to wipe out that progress, and not just on the DEI in higher education. They want to wipe it out across the board. What's his name? Robert Carroll, Carroll, is writing books about Lyndon Baines Johnson, and his concept is I'm writing about power. And the two best people who you think of to personify power, because power is such an abstract concept, is a guy by the name of Robert Moses, a racist who basically, out of his mind, came what we now as the physical infrastructure of America, and the other person is LBJ, another racist who became a progressive from Texas. But in his third book, it's called it's about LBJ as the majority leader of the United States Senate, and it's a description of what America looks like. Black people literally live on the wrong side of the track. They can't get access to bank loans. The businesses we start, our economic centers, are burned and destroyed. And we are sitting here on this call in 2024, and we're still suffering those consequences from slavery to the destruction of the economic structures we built, and we still continue to be excluded. So, yeah, we've got to have a strategy, and our strategy can't be dependent on solely empowering one political party. I wrote a piece on Twitter the other day. Black people need to start doing what Republicans did for a while. Go vote in the Republican primary and vote out the Republicans you don't like in Republican districts, and then you can go do whatever you want to in the general election. But we have got to start making them afraid of our political power before it's totally gone. Because if we don't do that, we're going to be shut out of this system. And, you know, they have captured Malcolm X. I watch TV some days and I just shake my head and smile when I see white people using the term "the chickens have come home to roost," and they're selling Malcolm X T-shirts in Target and Macy's.
But Professor,
They don't really understand. But I'll stop there because there's a lot that could be said. But DEI is a trick bag that really was an avoidance of the real reality that we need to be fully included and be granted our rights to full citizenship.
I say we go ahead and call it what it is, DIE, and let's deal with it from that aspect. Because as long as we continue to buy into their narrative, we're gonna get sucked right into it. We're better at being them than they are at being themselves. And so, Barrington, you're the liberation journalist. Brother Robinson was hitting on all cylinders. And I saw you shaking your head. What is it? What is it that we can do from our position to get where we need to be?
I think the biggest thing that we in this country have to do is to decide if we're going to be with us, for us, or if we're going to continue to be an appendage of white people. Mm-hmm. We have got to decide where we are. The thing is, as the professor was talking, I'm thinking that for the 400 years that African Americans have been in this country, it was slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, and all of the other efforts to marginalize and kill off black people. So there's only been quote unquote freedom since 1964. So it hasn't been that long. And for us to sit down and think that all of a sudden white people are going to just suddenly be moral and understanding and accepting. They've shown themselves, they've shown their ass every time, in every way, and we're always forgiving them. So for me, the question becomes, and it's interesting too, because the professor said something else. And if you look at the arc of progress for African Americans in this country, every goddamn time that they built anything of substance, the whites destroyed it.
Yes.
And then they say, why are you all so lazy? Right? Everything. I mean, Tulsa, Rosewood, all of this. Every time that black people pulled themselves together, pulled their resources, built some stuff, they said that Tulsa was all about jealousy. These white people are like, these black people are living too well. They have businesses that we don't have.
Right.
They have a lifestyle that we envy, and they burned it down. So I'm even at the point now where I don't know that there's any real place in this country for black people, unless we did something like what the Nation of Islam talked about, grab some states and have the land and build on the land, and white people go where they want. I think it's gotten to that point.
They tried that one time. They tried that with the 40 acres and a mule.
Yeah.
And they were about to do it, and some white guy said, "Oh no, wait a minute."
Every time. Every time.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me say this.
Sure.
In America, there's never really been an honest conversation about why Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And if you understand that as soon as Lincoln was assassinated, they killed off his plan for what Reconstruction would be, about trying to fully integrate the then newly freed men into fullness of economic citizenship and some reasonable level of participation. But I want to offer another thought to follow up on our brother, the liberation journalist. Like him, I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and came to America. People forget. We still refer to him shorthand as Malcolm. But Malcolm, when he went to Africa and saw what it was really like and the potential for a global alliance, the strategy changed. And I think the potential is still there for Black people around the world, on the continent, and the places we were taking to, from the Caribbean, South Central Latin America, even into England. There is an opportunity for us to develop a global strategy that can be an alliance for empowerment and protection. And folks forget that's where the movement was going when they essentially wiped out the entire Black leadership of the civil rights movement, because King, Malcolm, all those folks were starting to make a transition from seeing this as purely a domestic issue of racism to connecting us to global Black empowerment.
And in that conversation, should we? Yeah, but also in that conversation, in assassination of Black leaders, we often forget Patrice Lumumba.
Yep.
And his role in that. And so, again, talking strategy, and I agree. Our sense of having a global sense of Blackness. Where have we fallen short again in that strategy? I mean, because it's hard for a brother who hadn't been but a few blocks in the 3311 in Fort Lauderdale, or or that 7704 in Harris County, or wherever, to even begin to think globally. So what is it? What a part of our strategy should we begin in? As you say, in the art of war, I mean, you should know your enemy as you should know yourself. But maybe if you don't know yourself, you're really not going to know your enemy. So are we at that point where we don't know ourselves and we don't know the enemy? And damn, we sure don't know a strategy.
I think we know the enemy. We see the enemy, what the enemy does every day. But I think what the professor said is so important. I don't think that Africans in America will survive by themselves, because everything that's happening to us here is happening in Mali, in Ghana, in Brazil. Africans in the diaspora are dealing with the exact same system, the exact same oppression, all of the things that we see at different levels. So, it makes me crazy, because I keep the folks who I call Black nativists, because I've talked to some folks here and heard them talk, and they say that their history begins at 1619, that they are not Pan-Africanist, that they have no connection to Africa. These are Black people. And they're saying, and the crux of what they're talking about is that they're saying that they should be the only Black people in this country who get reparations. And I laugh because then white people will destroy this country before they give us reparations.
Oh yeah.
They will never give us reparations. So we should pursue it and try to move as much as we can to get reparations. But Perry, we don't have to invent the wheel. Read Frantz Fanon.
Yeah, Francis Fanon.
Read Amilcar Cabral, who fought against the Portuguese and beat them. We have more than enough examples, strategies, ways to deal. The thing that we have to do is to turn off the goddamn television, read a book, find some mentors, find a Professor Cat Robinson, sit down and learn, ask questions, because the fact that you are in 305 on the corner does not preclude you from being able to become a global person. Look at Malcolm's beginnings.
That's right.
If you looked at Malcolm at the beginning of his life, in his early part of his life, nobody could have seen the trajectory that he made to become the Malcolm X that we knew.
You know something, Barrington? You said something, and maybe a strategy or a plan would be to say, okay, let's get the black press, the NNPA, to say, okay, turn off your TV for a week and read a paper. You know, if that's something that we feel will move the pendulum, will move us to where we need to be, then we need to start pushing that. Mm-hmm. We come up with some great ideas, but we don't move them past that conversation. You know,
one of the most important things I think we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday schools,
church schools.
We need some Saturday schools, because if you look at the Jewish people, they teach their culture, their religion, and their history at Saturday schools. We need to be doing that.
Yeah,
because where in the world has anybody ever given the education of their children to the people that oppress them?
No.
We're the only one. We're the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, think about it. I'm sorry.
No, go
think
ahead.
about it. Think about it like this. You know, I'm going to show my age. When I grew up, they called it a trick bag.
Mm-hmm.
It means you're falling for the misdirection.
Yeah.
The brother on the corner is going to take your money because you can't identify under what walnut shell the pea is.
Watch that.
So think about it this way. We're having a fight over Republican banning books in school. In the age, even with digital divide of the internet, they still have bookstores.
Yeah.
Like, literally, we should be providing books to kids about Black history.
Yeah.
Right.
As chairman of the coalition the other day, since everybody want to talk about CRT, I went to law school in the early 1980s when Derek Bell and all those folks, those Black scholars, were writing about what all these Republicans are screaming about. And I'm sure most people have never read the books. But I sent out, Derek Bell called them allegories, short stories that he was using to teach a lesson. And everybody should go read this one. It's called The Space Traders. You can Google it. Derek Bell, he's deceased now.
Wow.
His two great books are And We Are Not Saved and Faces at the Bottom of the Well. If you are Black in America, a Black parent, a Black grandparent, buy those books, read them, and share them with your kids and grandkids.
Yep.
But in The Space Traders, alien ships show up on the satellite radar. And they come from outer space with unlimited clean energy, unlimited golds and diamonds, and they're willing to give the world, white people, a solution to every problem they have globally. They can fix climate change. They can bring back prosperity to the world. They just want one thing. They want all the Black people on the planet. And Derek Bell tells the story of how white folks and some go along to get along Black folk rationalize the story of how we should go stand on the shore in chains like we came, to be put on ships, but not from one continent on this planet to another,
Right.
but from this continent to a place we don't know, as a reminder about how things could go. I agree, Saturday school, Monday school, Schoolhouse Rock, Black newspapers, we have got to teach our history and story. I'll end here with this. People aren't paying attention to what's going on in the world right now. And what's going on in the world is a global reordering. The Chinese, in partnership, alliance, self-interest, if you want to call it, not just with Russia,
Saudi
Saudi Arabia,
Brazil,
the BRIC nations, India, Iraq, Iran. They're getting rid of the dollar. They're selling American debt. They're developing digital currency, a digital-based trading system.
Yep.
They are essentially tired of American power. And they are decoupling themselves from the American computer system, because what they learned from Russian sanctions is that if you're a part of the American banking system and the computer system, they can mess with your money and your trade. And China is decoupling themselves and creating a new orbit. And the battleground is, where are Black people in Africa and in the Americas, south of the United States? Who are they going to fall into economic alliance with? That's why we have leverage at this moment in time, if we just understand what's going on, to be prepared. We got to play chess. We can't keep playing checkers anymore as Black people. And we have got to understand the history and the global context of what's happening right in front of us. Because if we don't, man, it's going to be worse than just being unbanked and not having a credit card or a bank card or to go into a store when there are no no cashiers, no self-checkout. You walk in and the thing scans you and you can't pay. I mean, there is a concerted effort to create a system where it becomes easier to imprison us, to keep us in poverty, and community-based leaders have got to start talking to community-based leaders, political leaders in DC, Black members of Congress, Democratic, Republican Black members of the Senate. Got to start building that alliance, so we have a camp to fall in with leverage as what's playing out unfolds.
Okay, I think we use that term too loosely. That leadership thing. I think we use that too loosely. But one of our viewers, Ms. Deborah Mizell, she says in the late 70s. Here we go. Put it up. Okay, in the late 70s, a Jewish man told her, if Black people and Jewish people got together, we could completely change the trajectory for good. So, that is what do I want to call that? That's a statement that uses the moment to move it to the future. And so we have to be about not just staying here in this moment. We got to move. We can't continue to stay here. We got to move this conversation into action.
But Bobby,
in
1967, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King wrote the book Chaos or Community, and he lamented that he was bringing African Americans into a burning building. The building's still burning. Any student of history looking at where America's going, it's clear that it's end of empire, and that piggybacks completely with what the professor's saying. As America dies, other countries are making alliances and coalitions because they know America's on borrowed time. But you talk to Black people here, and they're like, I ain't African, I ain't going nowhere, which doesn't make any sense. We need to be strategizing. Every chance I get, every young person I talk to, I say, I don't even care if you have money, get a passport and find ways to travel. Because I have been fortunate enough to, I'm at my 42nd country and counting. Every opportunity I get, I travel. Because you cannot get a sense of what America is, what the world is, if you sit down on your porch and don't go anywhere.
Wow.
And I go all over the place and people in this country, and people say, America is the greatest country in the world. And I said, okay, yeah, it might be. Have you been anywhere else? No. So how do you know? If you have nothing to compare it to, you can't say it's the greatest country in the world. And we sit down here today, the 20th of April, 2023, and the Republican, what used to be the Republican Party, has in Congress, they have allowed child care credits to expire. They are talking about adding work requirements to SNAP and work requirements for people who are suffering from cancer. They are monsters. They are monsters. They don't care about anybody. I mean, just in the last few days, this young woman in New York went into the wrong driveway. The dude shot her and killed her. The old boy in Kansas City shot Ralph Yall because he went to the wrong house. This idiot in Texas just shot two cheerleaders, and then you have an ass like DeSantis who has just signed the permitless carry at 11:04 at night under the cover of darkness. It's a madness.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how long the good people in this country are going to sit down and make these monsters, these animals, do what they're doing and killing people.
Yeah. And look, Florida is just following Texas.
Yeah.
I'll give you I'm going to call it ironic and hypocritical. So we had the situation where a retired military guy kills a protester carrying an AK-47. Tucker Carlson says Governor Abbott should pardon the guy who was found guilty by a jury, that his self-defense argument was not legitimate. And I'm thinking to myself, Republicans in Texas, now Florida, are the exact same people who said people should have AK-47, and now I have a governor that's saying simply carrying an AK-47 is sufficient justification to find you not guilty on stand your ground charges for killing somebody who has an AK-47 that wasn't pointed at you. You haven't heard anybody say he should find anybody else, pardon anybody else. It's just, they are bound by no rules, no moral principles other than the self-preservation of political power.
Again, I say we are better at being them than they are. Look at the house party. Now it's 16, 17-year-old black boys shoot up a house party. This emulation, this what do you call it? Assimilation, when you just morph into them, but what do? We have churches that could open up schools and teach, so I don't care about what DeSantis does. No matter what somebody else does, if you bring your A game, and they'll bring their A game, the object of the game is to win. So if DeSantis is want to stop teaching Black history or anything that's contrary to his beliefs, then we take it to where he's not. We still have the churches. We still have.
But Bobby.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, man. The church is bought and paid for. They're bought and paid for.
A lot of them are, not all of them, Barrington.
Their money, they're not gonna step on anybody's toes.
Well, let's make them. If we stop going, let's make them.
But Bobby, we could have this conversation for a while, because the next question that I have is, how do we break the shackles and the chains of Christianity?
Tell the truth.
Part right there.
That's the next.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because
tell the truth.
Listen. My grandparents and great grandparents were Maroons in Jamaica, right? Mm-hmm. When the white planters were brutalizing, lynching, murdering, raping, they didn't sit down and say Jesus said to turn the other cheek. They went out and they chopped some people up. They killed some people and they got their freedom. If we're not prepared to do that, we ain't gonna go nowhere.
But Barrington, didn't you tell me you was a Catholic?
No. I said I was born and raised. I'm a last Catholic. But here's the deal.
I'm kidding, Barrington. I'm kidding.
I know.
You know.
I left the Catholic Church when I was 16. But we're in the same way that I'm asking, who else in the world lets your oppressors educate you?
Right.
Who else in the world?
Yeah.
Let's. I mean, God Almighty. Every day you read a story about cops killing our children, vigilantes killing our children. These cops in Oklahoma talking about they wish they could go hang a nigger on
Hang a nigger.
Right? We don't do anything. We don't do anything. Why? Why? Because we're Christian? Because we don't care about, we're waiting for the pie in the sky? White people have taught us that everything that is good for us is going to come when we go to heaven. But everything that's good for them, they're taking here now.
Gotta have
We should be asking those hard questions.
Look, the boys gave us guidance. I will describe it this way. You know, for some reason, you said, I can't remember which of the moderators said, well, leadership is a loose thing. I'm gonna ground it in America. Okay, and let me just do a short thing. I can't remember who I was talking to, but they said to me, people think because something it's always been that way. And so people forget how America came into existence. A group of people decided they wanted to be free from the British, mostly for economic reasons. Not everybody in the colonies wanted to leave the crown, but the people who wanted to leave the crown ginned up the Revolutionary War. Because remember, even the mainstream history book will talk about the folks who were here that were with the British. And when the British got defeated, a bunch of them got on ships to go back to England. So we got to stop this. Everybody's got to be a part of solving the problems. So the folks who ginned up America, they gin up a Revolutionary War. They win the war. I make my law students read the entire Declaration of Independence, because if you don't read the second half, you don't really understand America, because everybody always does self-evident, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But you got to have a story, and the Declaration of Independence is their story about justifying why it's okay to take up arms to take control of the land. They win. The Constitution of the United States is not the first governing document of this country. It is the document of who? Because they gin up the conspiracy to go to Annapolis to say, you know, the Articles of Confederation, the first governing document, just isn't working well enough, because there wasn't enough power in a central government to do a bunch of things a small group of people wanted. So me and the professor get together, me and the liberation writer get together and say, this is the story. You good cop, bad cop. And we're going to say, let's go to Annapolis. We already know what we're going to do. And they get to Annapolis, and that's when they said, you know what? We need to have a bigger conversation about this. Could we go to Philadelphia and just clean up the article? There's a great book, Ratification. Read. Let's not make the stereotype that if you want to hide it, put it in writing. And ratification is the story about how they get the Constitution adopted, because they go to Philadelphia to clean up the Articles of Confederation and they junk them. They jettison them and they come up with an entirely brand new document, and they come up with a story, the Federalist paper, about why this is better and it should be adopted by the colony. The Bill of Rights is a political exchange. The colonists say, hey, look, man, that thing looks good. It's all right. But we need some stuff in exchange for us to ratify it. And they say we need 12 amendments. 10 of them got passed within the first year after ratification, and then 2 come along centuries later. But that's how we get the Constitution of the United States. I tell the story to make the point about Du Bois. We can't wait for everybody to lead. That's just not how it works as the world has ever worked. And some of us do have to get together and going to have to decide, hey, this is where we need to go and lay the groundwork for the rest of the human animals. We are a pack animal. We somehow, because we think we're the smartest animal on the planet, we forget that we are animals and we are a pack, and we follow. We don't lead, we follow. So if some people offer leadership and explain it, people will follow. And so we're going to have a strategy. Some people with good hearts better decide they're going to be the leaders, because if they don't, you get people with bad hearts like Trump and others that will decide they'll come up with a plan and they'll go song and dance it till they get appointed the leaders of the deal. And so I don't think we can wait for somebody to come along. Look, I'll finish with this. Dr. King wasn't even a leader. Dr. King was just the person the people picked in Montgomery. He didn't scheme up the idea to have 2 black women sit on the bus, because Rosa Parks wasn't the first one.
Yeah, Claudette Coleman.
Yeah. So black people have got to understand how this thing works, not just in the United States. The liberation journalists talked about it. This is an empire, because we won the Second World War, because we were the industrial and breadbasket. And when we won, we sat at the table and said, this is how the game is going to go. And we gobbled up everything we could. And the Russians realized what was happening, and they held on to a little something. On Netflix, there's a counter history documentary. But folks have got to understand this. The Russians have ever only come west one time in their nation's history. One time. The Germans have gone east twice. And if you don't understand where the Russian psyche comes from, because basically they killed off their nation, self-sacrificed their nation twice to win world wars against what we call the West invading them, you can't really understand the person across the table. They only came west the one time when the United States promised to open a second front in Europe to help fight the Germans. And the Germans almost marched their way through Russia to win. And the Russians had to fight them all the way back into Europe, because they realized the Americans weren't coming to help them initially. And once they started winning and rolling back west, the United States came into Europe to try to preserve some of what we refer to as the EU. Look, I don't want to have no honest conversation tonight about NATO, because NATO is in Europe, because they can't get along with each other, because they fight with each other all the time, because even they historically don't see each other as white. The Anglo-Saxons didn't see the Germans as white for the longest time. So we got to get grounded in history to build a strategy, and some of us have got to go lead our people to freedom.
Okay, and that's what we were supposed to be discussing tonight. At least a couple of strategies. Damn, Dr. Robinson, you took us to school, to the university. That's what happens when you put, a professor, when he knows what he's talking about, he wants to tell us. So, and I respect and appreciate that. But now we're getting past the hour. You know, and Miss Saunders, I don't want you to think that your time was not valued.
Oh no, this was great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I said before, I'm in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
The coast have opinions. We just kind of going along here, but the South is something that everybody is now experiencing, no matter where they live. And the way that we as a people have been treated historically, and somebody mentioned Tulsa, yes. Once we get something, and make it work for us, and we are, it works for us and it benefits us, then they come along to destroy it because they're not having it. And when they just don't knock it down, they burn it down to the ground so that it never comes back. And so this was great information. I've got a list of books here I got to go and read this weekend. You know, because if you don't know what has happened, then you're bound to repeat it. And it sounds like to me we're repeating it again and again and again. So no, time well spent. I want to spend it again, Mr. Henry.
Okay, Dr. Saunders. Okay, so let's see, and I know we gotta. It never fails when there's information to be given. Time is the one that gets in the way of really getting it out there, and we've come to the end of our hour, and so we got to wrap it up. So if we can do this, if we can just go around and give us one strategy, that we can at least attempt to use, that our viewers can say that they did get something from this program. So let's start with you first, Barrington.
I would say that those of us who are older than the Gen Xers, the Gen Zs, and the Millennials need to stop being afraid of them. We need to blend our wisdom with their energy, because that's what happened in the civil rights movement. You had older people, and the young people were the engine. So we, I'm saying we, for just all of us, we need to begin to make connections with young people. Talk to them, respect them, bring them in. Listen, if you look at the traditional civil rights organizations in this country, does any of them have a succession plan? Do any of them have a succession plan? Are they grooming young people to take over? If you're not doing that, it's a waste of time. Because these people are acting like these despots who think they're never going to die, so they never prepare for when they are gone. We need to be doing that. We need to be doing that. We need, and I will say too that those of us who, Fidel Castro always said that to whom much is given, more is expected. Those of us who have had the opportunities, money, education, and that type of thing, we need to be pulling up those that are disadvantaged. We're not doing that. And if we're doing it, we're not doing it enough. And the last thing I'd say is read as if your life depends on it, because it does.
Okay, very good.
I mean, do more than read, because it doesn't make any sense for me to sit on for the next 15 years and read and don't do anything. If you're not going to do anything, we might as well lay down in a corner and die. We have to fight them every day. We have to never make them think that they have an advantage. We have to call them on everything. We have to tell the truth when they lie, because everything, every time they open their mouth, they're lying. And most of the time, the media doesn't challenge them. The media has this bullshit thing where, oh, you know, we gotta tell
Fact
both
check.
sides. Tell both sides. That's garbage.
Okay.
That's garbage.
Okay. Okay. Our liberation journalists. All right. Ms. Saunders.
I like what he just said about succession plan. I believe that down to the marrow of my bones. So many things happen. We get to a point as a people, and then when the person who started it dies, it's done. Poof, it's gone. So then somebody starts over. Why you got to keep starting over? Why can't we have a continuum and make it go through? I believe in that succession plan, and we don't, the people with the wisdom do not embrace the people with the energy. I like that. I consider myself the oldest millennial. I believe in technology, all the products, all the bells, all the whistles. But if we, as the people with the wisdom, don't embrace technology, then we cannot even begin to talk to the younger people. There's no conversation. There is no meeting of the minds, because we somewhere back with the dinosaurs. So, you know, we've got to, I agree.
Okay, Professor Robinson. And you got a shadow. You got a shadow right over your face, Professor Robinson.
Oh, let me swing around this way.
Okay, there you go.
Hey, look, I'm just going to do two quick things.
Huh?
One,
look, corrupt.
Travel to foreign countries, and 2, build relationships and invest in businesses outside the United States as you go along. So you have some wealth that you can get to someplace else.
Invest and build well. Okay, Mr. Busby.
Man, this has been a great conversation. I felt like I've been back in school, listening to these two gentlemen who have traveled and who have seen and who have read and been among, you know, who we consider to be among the very elite of our leadership, Mary and Barry. It is a shame that we would even dare just encapsulate him at one of his weaker moments, and Barry the moment in which he was set up. So, but again, it speaks to who we are and where we are, and I think what I would say, and Barrington picked up on it earlier, these are things we can do. Saturday school. That is within our ability to do. It doesn't have to start big, but Saturday schools, I think, are very important. And one novel thing, when, you know, we've talked about history, and especially in seeing the Republican Party implement old strategies. One of my greatest heroes is David Walker, and David Walker's appeal.
Mm-hmm.
In this 196 year of the Black press, one of the things about David Walker's appeal is that it was written in, I think, about 5 versions. He rewrote it, but David Walker's appeal appeared in almost every edition of the Black press, all over. So much so that it was Nat Turner preached from David Walker's appeal. So you talk about the power of the Black press. You have this one guy who writes, and David Walker even talks about the Russians. He talks about the Caucasians, and he writes this in his appeal. Nat Turner picks it up and begins to preach from it, And now we get Nat Turner raising up the conscience of enslaved people to say, and Nat Turner says, I'm going to start picking up his Moorish roots. I'm going to start with killing my master.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that carried out, and you see Marcus Garvey, another acolyte, picks up David Walker's appeal and begins to bring the consciousness of Black America to go back and invest back in Africa. And I believe not since Marcus Garvey have we even thought to even go back to look at David Walker's appeal. And one thing I will ask my Black publishers, we don't have to reinvent it. And we begin to go back to just print that.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything special with it. Just put it back in the consciousness of our people.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, can I say something real quick?
No. Yeah, Barrington. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We Africans in this country have a disposable income of 1.2, maybe 1.3 trillion dollars. We're not supposed to be begging white boys for anything.
For nothing. For nothing.
But we still are the highest consumers of Hennessy's, Cadillacs, and Stacey Adams.
Mm-hmm.
So it's our priorities.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right.
Our priorities.
Okay. Everybody said something that everybody can use. Now, if I were to take and summarize what was said as a form of strategy to move us through this filled with political bull stuff, it would be, we have to learn to blend ourselves, old and new. We need to travel so we can learn what's outside of this country. We need to read, to comprehend what we read, and to get our young folks to read. We need to invest. We need to teach, and then we need to have a succession plan, because the enemy from within is the enemy that we have to beat down first in order for us to move. I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this show tonight. And it's not going to be the last, because Professor Robinson got a lot more classes to teach. And we want to invite him to come back and our liberation journalists to chronicle what the professor is saying. And then, Ms. Sanders, you and I have an obligation to our readers to give them what has been discussed for their betterment, to create a momentum for us to come up from under this bull crap that we're under, and not to be subjected with somebody else's ideology about who we are. So I want to thank y'all, and we're going to do it again. Perry, as always, you be careful out there on that road, man. Don't pull up in nobody's driveway, and don't ring the wrong doorbell, man. This is some serious times that we're in.
Yeah.
So God bless you all. Mona Lisa, you give Cheryl a call so we can follow up with that. Miss McCleary, on your trips to Africa, please, let's create that umbilical cord that we can move ourselves and understand much more what is transpiring. And Miss Wimberly, I didn't get a chance to read your comments, but we are all in this together, and together each can accomplish much more. So good night, everybody. God bless you. I see you, Attorney Sandra. You're great too. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.